The morning sun streamed through the marble gates of Haven Motors, its light bouncing off the gleaming cars. This wasn't just any company garage. It was a temple of ego suits sparkled. Expensive colognes fought to mask the scent of oil. And there, among them all, stood Amira Hassan, coverall stained, fingertips calloused. 26 years old, a mechanic raised in her father's old workshop in South Los Angeles. The small, rusty toolbox she carried was her badge of defiance, challenging million-dollar laboratories. Richard Vance, the company's founder, a man hailed as a genius by millions, but built entirely out of arrogance, sipped his coffee and looked over the crowd. "Miss," he said, a mocking curl forming at the corner of his lips, "if you can get this car running, I'll marry you." The crowd erupted in laughter. Phones rose, recording the humiliation. But on Amira's face there was neither anger nor shame, only calm. "Then get ready," she said quietly, "because I don't give up easily." The laughter died instantly. Something had shifted. The woman hadn't backed down. And in that moment, the cameras learned the value of silence. Amira lifted the hood. The smell of hot metal rose into the heavy, still air. A young engineer whispered, "This is just for show." Another muttered, "If she touches it, she'll fry the circuit." But Amira didn't hear them. She leaned over the engine, brushing the cables with her fingertips, as if feeling for a heartbeat. "The problem isn't talking," she murmured to herself. "It's that no one listens." Richard chuckled. "What are you doing down there? Saying a prayer?" "No," Amira replied. "I'm listening to its heart." Her words echoed through the hall, and there it was, the first hook. The audience was locked in, caught between mockery and quiet defiance. Amira reached into her pocket, pulled out a small screwdriver. She noticed a loose connection, wires crossed in the wrong order. "There's a mistake here," she said. "This system was built to impress, not to work." One of the engineers stepped forward, flustered. "That's a prototype part. You can't touch it." Without looking up, Amira said, "Then it's already broken." A real engineer doesn't fear. She learns. Richard crossed his arms, smirking. "You talk too much. Let's see if your wisdom can start the car." "It's not wisdom," said Amira. "It's patience." Silence fell. Everyone watched the woman bent over the engine. Cameras zoomed in, beads of sweat, steady hands, a rhythm unshaken. This was no longer a technical scene. It was the rebirth of dignity. A faint clicking came from the engine. Amira tugged a connector, swapped out a small resistor, then leaned toward the rear panel. "Who wrote this code?" she asked. A bespectacled man hesitated and raised his hand. I did." "It's pulling data from the wrong sensor," she said calmly. "The engine's gone into self-protection mode." A murmur swept through the hall. Richard frowned. "That's impossible. We tested it for months." "Then you looked," Amira said. "But you didn't listen." She turned the key. For a heartbeat, the engine coughed, then roared to life with a deep, steady hum. It was as if it had taken its first breath. Gasps filled the air. A female engineer stared at her tablet. "It's running," she whispered. Another shook his head. "How is this possible?" Amira placed her hand on the hood. "Because respect repairs," she said. Richard's face froze. He wanted to laugh, but no sound came out. From the back, someone recorded and tweeted, "Rich CEO mocks poor woman. She fixed his car." Amira closed her toolbox, wiped the sweat from her forehead. "Are you done?" Richard asked. "No," she said. "This is just the beginning." The engine purred smoothly in the background. And in that moment, everyone understood. This wasn't just a technical victory. It was the moment pride broke, and respect was redefined. The sound of the engine echoed through the hall like a slap across everyone's mind. Amira stepped back, wiping her hands with an oily rag. No one dared to move. Richard finally spoke, his voice lower this time. "How did you do that?" "I listened," Amira said. "Sometimes machines are like people. The more you yell at them, the quieter they get." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Even one of the cameramen held his breath. It wasn't just a car that had started working. It was justice that had come alive again. Richard bit his lip. "Nice show," he said. "But you got lucky." "We've been struggling with this for weeks." Amira turned to him. "Lucky?" "No, Mr. Vance. This was earned, through patience." Then she added, her voice carrying through the hall like a lesson. "You competed to prove how powerful you are. I won by proving how careful I am." That line. It was already becoming a viral hook, destined to be shared millions of times. Every viewer would remember the times they were underestimated. As Amira closed her toolbox, Richard's eyes drifted into the distance. He remembered his first class at Harvard. The professor had said, "If you ever think you're too smart, that's the moment you start becoming a fool." He had laughed back then, but today those words weighed heavy. The engine was still running, its smooth hum defying everyone's disbelief. Richard stood silent for a moment, then gave a frustrated laugh. "So, tell me, why didn't you become an engineer?" Amira's eyes softened. "Because engineering isn't just a diploma. My father engineered with his hands. I'm just continuing his legacy." "From the back," a female engineer whispered. "This is inspiring." Another quickly hit the record button. Soon, people all over the world would be replaying this very moment. But Richard was fighting an inner war, pride wrestling with admiration. There was no fear in the woman's eyes, only confidence. "So the engine actually talked to you?" he asked. "Yes," Amira replied, "and it told me you weren't listening." A brief laugh came from the audience, but not from Richard, because he knew she was right. Silence lingered. Then Amira spoke again. "I'm not your enemy, Mr. Vance. I just listened to the only voice that mattered, reason." Richard lowered his head slightly. For someone like him, that was a revolution. The press had already flooded the front entrance. Headlines were being written. "Poor mechanic humiliates billionaire, CEO." "A woman makes history inside Haven Motors." But none of that mattered to Amira. When she returned to her small garage, her father's old radio was playing. He used to tell her, "My girl, some people fix engines. Others fix people." That night, Amira looked in the mirror. Her face was still smudged with oil, but her eyes were shining. "Today," she whispered, "I fixed both." Just then, her phone rang. An unknown number flashed on the screen. She answered. "Miss Hassan, this is Richard Vance." "I owe you an apology." Amira stayed silent. "You taught me something today," Richard continued. "Arrogance blinds intelligence." "That's all?" she asked. "No," he said. "I'd like to invite you to the office tomorrow. I want us to start a new project together." "I don't work for companies, Mr. Vance," Amira said. "I work with hearts." Richard smiled softly. "Then come teach us how to have one." The next day, Amira returned to the company. But this time, the hall was silent. No one mocked her. Everyone stood up. Richard took the podium. "Yesterday, we learned a lesson," he said. "And that lesson came from a woman, a mechanic. a teacher. Applause filled the hall. Amira bowed her head quietly. From today, Richard said, Haven Motors will not only build engines, it will learn to listen. Amira stepped onto the stage and took the microphone. Don't applaud me, she said. Today, you didn't hear me. You heard your own mistakes. The audience was stunned. I only changed one thing, she continued. Your perspective. From the back, a young woman raised her hand. Miss Hassan, she asked softly, do you think one day I can be like you? Amira smiled. Don't be like me, she said. Be yourself. Just don't let anyone silence you. That line wasn't just spoken to the room. It was spoken to the entire world. When the meeting ended, everyone slowly dispersed. But Amira didn't leave. The engine was still running, steady, calm, and rhythmic. She looked at it, then smiled quietly. Richard walked over. You won, he said. Amira shook her head. No, Mr. Vance, no one won. Someone finally listened. Richard lowered his gaze. You made me feel like my mistake could be forgiven. It's not about forgiveness, Amira said. It's about change. As the hum of the engine filled the background, the lights began to dim. A journalist approached. Miss Hassan, he asked, how does this victory make you feel? Amira paused. Her eyes were steady, yet gentle. This isn't my victory, she said. This is the quiet victory of everyone who's ever been underestimated. Just then, one of the company's young interns approached. A little girl, her white lab coat stained with grease. I'm going to be just like you, she said. Amira knelt down, smiling. You don't have to be, she said softly. You already are. The camera slowly pulled back. Under the garage lights, two silhouettes remained, one carrying the stains of the past, the other glowing with the hope of the future. Then the narrator's voice echoed. Respect isn't a diploma. It isn't a title. It lives within anyone who chooses to listen. As the sound of the engine faded, white letters appeared on the screen. True strength begins with understanding silence.